Steve stood before Sarah, his chest rising and falling with urgency. "Sarah, I have to tell you something. Something very important." But before he could continue, Sarah cut him off with a smile full of innocence. "You know, Daniel also said he has something to tell me. I think he's going to propose. And you know what? I'll say yes. Because I know how much he loves me." Her words hit Steve like a blade. He clenched his fists, his patience shattering. "He doesn't love you, Sarah. He never did. It was all a trap, and you've fallen into it." Sarah blinked, startled by the rare edge in his voice. He pressed on, his tone aching with both anger and desperation. "Daniel made a bet with his friends. He wanted to prove he could make you his girlfriend, to feed his ego. That's the truth." But Sarah shook her head stubbornly, retreating into the comfort of her own belief. No, Steve. That can't be true. Daniel isn't like that. I've known him since childhood. There must be a misunderstanding." Steve exhaled sharply, the fight draining from him. He stepped back, eyes heavy with disappointment. "Fine. It's your life. Who am I to stop you? But remember this, whatever happens, I am your real friend. And as your friend, I warned you, you just refused to listen." He turned and walked away. Sarah reached out instinctively. "Steve, wait, listen to me, But by the time the words left her lips, he had already disappeared into the distance. That evening, as Steve made his way home, Daniel blocked his path. His friends surrounded him like predators. Without a word, fists and kicks rained down on Steve, leaving him battered on the ground. His bag was ripped from his shoulders and thrown aside. The bag burst open, scattering books and papers. Among them fell a small, worn diary, the one where Steve had hidden his heart in ink, every word written for Sarah yet never meant to be read. Daniel's eyes flickered toward it but ignored it with a sneer. He gave Steve one final warning: "Stay out of my business. Or next time, you won't be walking away." Laughing, the group left, leaving Steve bruised in the dirt. When silence returned, Steve slowly picked himself up, clutching his bag. He gathered his things and walked away, his pride as battered as his body. But one thing he didn't notice: Luna had seen everything. She had been crossing the alley when the fight unfolded. After they all left, she hurried to the scattered belongings. Her gaze fell on the diary. She picked it up, her fingers trembling. Curiosity tempted her to open it, but she forced herself to stop. No. It's wrong to read someone's heart like this. Instead, she decided to give it to Sarah, the only person Steve trusted. The next day, on the morning of their first exam, Luna handed the diary to Sarah and told her everything she had seen. The attack. The warning. The way Steve had walked away alone. Sarah's heart sank. Guilt gnawed at her. She confronted Daniel immediately, her eyes sharp with accusation. "Did you really hurt Steve?" Daniel, smooth as ever, faked remorse. "Sarah, I'm sorry. It was just a misunderstanding. I lost my temper." And before she could push further, he quickly changed the subject, wrapping her again in words of affection. Distracted and torn, Sarah let it go. For now, at the exam hall, Steve appeared quietly, avoiding her gaze. He sat, finished his paper, and left without a word. Sarah tried several times in the following days to talk to him, to apologize, but he evaded her each time. It was as though a wall had been built between them, one he had no intention of breaking. On the last day, after the final exam, Daniel stood before the entire university. With grand gestures and rehearsed charm, he proposed to Sarah. The crowd erupted in cheers. Sarah, flushed and overwhelmed, said yes, and somewhere in the back, standing alone, Steve watched. His eyes filled with tears he hadn't planned to shed. His heart whispered bitterly, maybe Daniel really has fallen in love with her. After all, Sarah is so good. She can make anyone love her just like she made me, without waiting for the celebrations to end. He turned and walked away. Days later, the results were announced. As expected, Steve topped the class. His hard work had earned him not only the highest rank but also a full scholarship and the chance to study abroad. He accepted without hesitation. Perhaps distance was the only cure left for his heart. A few days before leaving, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from Sarah's number. His heart skipped as he opened it, only to find her wedding card. She was marrying Daniel. His lips curved in a faint, broken smile. He typed back a polite congratulations and promised he would be there. But as he hit send, his chest grew unbearably heavy with the memory of her. On her wedding day, Steve arrived quietly, carrying a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite. He found her before the ceremony, radiant in her bridal gown. Handing her the flowers, he managed a soft smile. "I'm going abroad soon. For higher studies." Sarah's eyes softened. "Then I wish you all the luck in the world, Steve," he nodded, holding her gaze one last time, etching it into his memory. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, toward the airport, toward new life, and away from the girl he would always love. After their marriage, the first few months had been nothing short of bliss. Sarah had believed she had found her forever. But slowly, Daniel began to reveal his true colors. With smooth words and calculated affection, he manipulated her into convincing her father to sell his company shares. Mr. Williams, who trusted his daughter's happiness above all, agreed. In their business partnership, he had always held the majority. But once those shares slipped into Daniel's name, everything changed. The warmth in Daniel's voice turned cold, his touch distant. Soon after, the final blow came. He cheated on her, and with chilling cruelty, he confessed the truth. The marriage had been nothing but a bet. He had never loved her, he only wanted her money. The revelation shattered Sarah's world. Broken and betrayed, she returned to her father's house. Mr. Williams, devastated by the deception, filed for her divorce immediately. The proceedings were swift, and within months, Sarah found herself free, yet imprisoned in a darkness of her own. Depression consumed her days, her nights blurred with unanswered questions and silent tears, and now, piece by piece, she was trying to pick herself up, managing her father's company, though it lay in ruins after Daniel's betrayal and the loss of their major shares. Her voice trembled as the flashback ended. "I should have believed you, Steve," she whispered, a fragile smile tugging at her lips. Steve sat silently, his fists clenched beneath the table. His jaw tightened, every muscle burning with restrained fury. He had thought, perhaps, Daniel had changed. But no, he was wrong. How dare he hurt Sarah, the only woman he had cherished all his life? Sensing the storm in his silence, Sarah quickly changed the subject. "It's getting late. I have a few meetings lined up this afternoon. I should be going." Steve forced a smile, though the fire in his chest still raged. "All right. I'll see you soon." She stood, gathering her strength with each step, and as she walked away, her farewell lingered in the air. "See you soon," and in Steve's heart, the words burned with a promise. The next morning, Steve walked into his company's towering glass headquarters in New York City, a name that already resonated across international markets. Despite managing it from abroad all these years, his empire had not only survived but flourished, thanks to the unwavering loyalty of his trusted manager, Mr. Robert. Mr. Robert had steered the company with precision, guarding its reputation and ensuring it remained one of the leading multinational corporations. And now, with Steve back in the city, the business world buzzed with anticipation. Many firms were desperate to bring him on board as an investor, hoping his name alone could guarantee their survival. Among them were two familiar names, Daniel's company, the Kurtz, and Sarah's company, Williams Industrial Corporation. For Sarah, this upcoming project was her company's last chance. Her father's years of hard work rested on it. Failure would mean collapse, Inside his office, Steve leaned back in his leather chair and calmly instructed Mr. Robert to bring him the full details of the Kurtz. Within minutes, pristine white files, stamped and legal, were placed on his desk. Steve flipped through them with practiced ease, but his sharp instincts warned him that something was missing. "Dig deeper," he ordered quietly. "Secretly. I want to know their real business affairs." An hour later, a confidential report landed before him. Page after page revealed Daniel's empire of deceit, smuggling routes, forged accounts, backdoor dealings. Steve's lips curved into a cold smirk. His mind was already weaving a strategy. Daniel wouldn't just lose this project, he would fall. The next day, the Grand Conference Hall brimmed with executives and representatives. Williams Industrial, the Kurtz, and several other corporations awaited the arrival of the elusive CEO, the man whose single nod could alter their destinies. And then, he walked in. "Mr. Steve Anderson." The air shifted instantly. Gasps echoed through the room. But none were louder, in silence, than the shock etched on Sarah's face and the disbelief that drained color from Daniel's. Yet Steve carried himself with flawless professionalism. The meeting began, and as the discussions unfolded, it became clear that Sarah's company outshone the rest. Their proposals, numbers, and vision were unmatched. After careful deliberation, Steve announced his decision. "Williams Industrial Corporation will have my investment." Sarah's father's eyes glimmered with pride, impressed not only by Steve's presence but by his discernment. Daniel, however, burned with frustration. As the crowd dispersed, he cornered Sarah. "You only got this project because of him," he hissed. Sarah froze but offered no reply. Instead, she turned away and left, her heart heavy with emotions she couldn't untangle. At a nearby cafe, she sat in silence, replaying every moment of the day. The shock of seeing Steve again, Daniel's accusations, her father's reaction. The weight of it all pressed against her chest. By the time she returned home, night had already fallen. She pushed open the door, expecting her father to be alone in the living room, but her steps faltered. Sitting across from her father, calmly discussing something over tea, was none other than Mr. Steve Anderson. The mahogany table gleamed under the soft chandelier light as Mr. William discussed business numbers with Steve. But the moment Sarah entered the room, her father's stern expression softened. "Sarah, come here," he called gently. She walked over, her steps unsure, and sat beside him on the sofa. William cleared his throat, his voice firm yet fatherly. "I have decided something for you, my child. I'm fixing your marriage with Mr. Anderson." Sarah froze. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. The woman was too stunned to speak. Steve looked at William respectfully, then glanced at Sarah, her face pale with shock. He straightened in his chair, jaw set, and spoke quietly. "Mr. William, with your permission, I'd like to speak to Sarah alone." Her father agreed, and Sarah silently led Steve out to the garden. The air was scented with jasmine. The moon cast silver light over the trimmed hedges. Both of them stood there, avoiding each other's eyes, as if the weight of unspoken words hung between them. Finally, Steve broke the silence, his voice low and careful. "Sarah, I want you to know this wasn't your decision. It was your father's. If you don't want this, if you feel forced, please say no. I'll understand. I won't hold it against you." Sarah looked up at him sharply, her eyes glistening under the moonlight. For a moment, Steve thought she would reject the idea, but then she spoke, her words trembling yet firm. "No, Steve. I don't have any issue. I agree to this marriage." He stared at her, stunned. His heart skipped a beat, disbelieving what he had just heard. You agree?" Sarah gave a small, sad smile, her voice breaking slightly. "In the past, I ignored your words. If only I had listened to you, things would have been different. I wouldn't have gone through all that pain. But I've learned now, sometimes it's better to listen to those who truly care. This time, I'll listen to my father." Steve's chest tightened. He saw the quiet strength in her eyes, the courage that had grown out of heartbreak. For him, she was still the same Sarah he had cherished in silence for years. But now there was something more, fragility woven with resilience. A slow, heartfelt smile spread across his face. He whispered, almost like a promise, "Then I'll spend my life making sure you never regret this decision." For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt the heaviness inside her heart lift just a little. Within a week, their wedding was arranged. It was a simple ceremony, no grandeur, no glittering chandeliers, just close family, quiet vows, and the warmth of two souls stepping into a new chapter together. And when Steve looked at her across the vows, his eyes spoke louder than any words ever could. "I will protect you, I will honor you, and I will never let you break again." One day after their marriage, Sarah's mother called her home. "Sarah, come tomorrow. We are finally renovating the house. You should decide how you want your room to look now," she said warmly. The next afternoon, Sarah walked into her childhood room. The fragrance of old books and the faint creak of the wooden cupboards brought back a flood of memories. As she began to shift her belongings, her hands paused on a pile of old novels. Tucked inside them was a worn-out diary, the very one Luna had once given her, saying it belonged to Steve. Sarah froze, staring at the faded leather cover. She had never found the right moment to return it to him. With a strange mix of curiosity and hesitation, she sat down on her old bed and opened it. The handwriting was unmistakably Steve's. Each page she turned carried whispers of his heart, words etched with quiet pain and unspoken devotion. He had written about her, every small detail, every moment they had shared in college, how he admired her laughter, how he always wanted to protect her, how he stayed close, even when she pushed him away, how he silently stood with her in the shadows, waiting, hoping. Her chest tightened. Tears blurred the ink as she realized how blind she had been, how carelessly she had ignored the boy who once loved her with the purity she now longed for. A knock at the door startled her. "Sarah," her mother called. "It's evening now. Steve is here. Come, he's waiting for you. We'll have dinner together." Sarah quickly wiped her eyes, closed the diary, and slipped it into her bag. The weeks that followed were different. Slowly, Sarah and Steve began to settle into a rhythm of togetherness. Their mornings began with tea shared on the balcony, laughter over small things, and evenings filled with long walks where Steve never let go of her hand. One night, after dinner, Sarah was drying her hair when Steve came from behind and gently tucked a strand behind her ear. "You don't know, Sarah," he whispered, "how much peace it gives me to finally call you mine." Sarah's heart fluttered. She still hadn't told him about the diary, but the weight of it was building inside her, waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, Steve hadn't forgotten the darkness looming over Sarah's past. He quietly collected evidence against Kurt's company. Late one night, when Sarah had fallen asleep on the couch, Steve stood by the window, phone in hand, his jaw clenched. He dialed the police with an anonymous number and revealed everything, every illegal business, every cruel affair Daniel had hidden. Within days, the news channels erupted with headlines. Business tycoon Daniel Kurt arrested for massive corporate scandal. Sarah watched the news with wide eyes. Relief washed over her. Finally he's getting what he deserves. Steve glanced at her. The sparkle in her eyes, the smile tugging at her lips, it made him exhale in peace. He leaned closer, whispering with a smirk, "Consider this my gift for our upcoming anniversary." Sarah turned to him, her voice soft yet filled with mischief. "And I have a gift for you too." Sarah brought out the diary from her bag. Steve frowned, surprised. "Sarah. This. Where did you get this?" She only smiled and shook her head. "Just read it." Steve opened it hesitantly. His eyes softened as he saw his own handwriting from years ago, raw, unfiltered emotions about her. Page after page, the boy he once was poured out before him. But then, halfway through, his breath caught. The ink changed. The words weren't his anymore. They were hers. Sarah had filled the blank half of the diary, her feelings after marriage. She had written about his patience, his kindness, his love that healed her broken pieces. She had confessed how she fell for him not in grand gestures, but in the quiet ways he made her feel safe. Steve's eyes welled up as he read. The boy who once wrote about a love that would never be his was now reading his wife's words of devotion to him. He looked up at her, stunned, trembling. Sarah's voice broke the silence. "I couldn't say it before. Not the way I wanted to. But this," she touched the diary gently, "this is my love for you, Steve. My heart, written where yours once lived." Overwhelmed, Steve pulled her into his arms. She buried her face into his chest as his arms wrapped around her tightly, as if never wanting to let go. "After all these years," he whispered, voice choked, "I finally have you. And now, I'll never let you go." Sarah closed her eyes, smiling through her tears. The ashes of their old love had bloomed into something eternal.